What's up, everybody? My name is Joe Brown. This is Heresy Financial, and today we are looking at what Ray Dalio recently said about cash, reiterating, slamming home yet again his view that cash is trash and it is not a place, a safe haven to protect yourself in economic times like this, especially where we are at in the long-term debt cycle that he's outlined many times. So we're going to look at that today, see what he says, and how instead of cash, what you can do to protect yourself in the midst of high inflation. Ready? Let's dive in. All right, guys, so take a look at this article from CNBC. Ray Dalio reiterates that cash is not a safe place right now, even though we have heightened market volatility. Now, we know right now we're experiencing a lot of market volatility, at least if you're looking short term historically. And so when you're looking at basically since the bottom after COVID, you look from about March or April 2020 until now. Yeah, right now we are in a pretty volatile time, right? So back in August or September, I should say, we had that sell-off. We rebounded and now are selling off again. And this is all in reaction to the rhetoric coming out of the Federal Reserve about tightening and tapering. Our economy is built on a massive foundation of debt. And as the biggest or a big buyer of that debt starts to pull out of the market, that means that all things being equal, debt prices start to fall. If debt prices fall, interest rates go up. They're inversely correlated. If interest rates go up, that means it gets more expensive to roll that debt over. The economy is like a person who is maxed out on their credit cards with a 0% intro APR. If you can barely make your interest payments at your 0% introductory rate, what do you think is going to happen when that runs out, when your interest rates go up to 15%? 20%, 25%. Well, if you could barely make your minimum payments at 0%, you're insolvent at 5 or 10 or 15 or 20%. And so the market is starting to price in the chance that something like that starts to happen, where all these big corporations have so much debt and they were able to roll that over with 0, 1, 2, 3%, where it's basically free, where they're cash flowing enough to pay for that, or maybe they're using equity in order to pay for that as well. Well, as you start to have debt prices increase, well, then you have the stock market has to reprice itself. Assets that are inflated as a result of cheap debt will come down as a result of expensive debt, right? That makes sense. And so in that situation, if you're expecting kind of a free market approach, cash would be the safe place to be, right? Because you've got two scenarios. You've got inflation or deflation. We all know that in inflation, stuff gets more expensive. That means cash is worth less, right? Deflation is the opposite. In deflation, stuff is worth less, cash is worth more. You can buy more with the same amount of cash. And so if you're expecting a free market approach where central planners like the Federal Reserve will allow asset prices to fall 5%, 10%, 20%, 50% even, if you're expecting that, then absolutely go for the cash, right? If you're certain enough that that is going to happen. Because if you have cash, then when everything falls in price, that means your cash got a lot more valuable relative to the stuff. You can buy more stuff with it then, right? So the point that Ray Dalio is making is that cash is not just going, we're not going to have a free market approach here where failure is allowed to fail. It will be taxed by inflation. And so if you expect inflation to reign and you expect prices to continue to go up, that means every month, or every couple of months or every year, whatever the true inflation rate is for you, not the official rate, whatever your cost of living is going up by, how much more life is costing you every single month, that's how much your cash, that's how much value your cash is losing every single month, quarter, year, whatever it is for you. And so what he's basically saying is here, you're not going to be able to market time this. And so holding cash, what happens if the Federal Reserve reverses their decision on tapering their asset purchases tomorrow? the stock market will explode upwards, right? Because bond markets, they're going to have to be repriced for that, because now you have that big buyer entering back in, bidding up prices. That pushes interest rates back down. That means debt gets cheaper again, and so that supports asset prices. And I don't think they're just going to do that for no reason, but I do think there will be a trigger. Maybe it's after the stock market falls 5% or 10% or 15%. But you can't time this thing. You never know when there's going to be an emerging markets crisis, where something like Turkey right now, the lira is just getting just crushed. So you never know when these things are going to spill and spiral out of control, and things are going to reverse on a dime. And we know that that is the response. You've seen just massive amounts of money printing, which, as he points out, is the same amount of money chasing this, more money chasing the same amount of goods. And so the next time, the next phase of monetary expansion, where the M2 money supply, we get another spike like this. I'll zoom in here so you can see that. Another spike like this, the money supply, even this rate of growth of the money supply since about July or August of last year, that is at a more severe pace than it was before. This line is a lot flatter than this line. And so the next time that we have a spike, that spike might not be sustained, but the rate of monetary expansion that happens after the spike will likely be more severe than the rate of monetary expansion we're facing right now. And so will we have a short-term drop, a short-term a deflationary event? Most likely. And that will be the catalyst to do more of what we've been doing for the last year and a half, to do more inflation, more money printing, more bailing out, more rescuing of markets. And Ray Dalio says here that what we are seeing happen has played out many, many times in history. It's like watching the movie over again. And that's exactly true, because you can see these things play out over and over and over again. And the central planners always get themselves into a pickle where they have to choose between letting prices collapse or trying to print their way out of it. And almost every time they try and print their way out of it, because you're choosing the borrowers as the winner there, and usually they themselves are the borrowers, or they're closely related to the borrowers, in this case the federal government and large corporations. And so they're going to bail that out in the attempt to save the plumbing of the financial system, not realizing that they're planting the seeds of its demise through the inflationary route rather than the deflationary route. And so a couple good books, if you want some resources, like he said, it's like seeing a movie playing over and over again. You just study history. So if you want some great books on this, read When Money Dies by Adam Ferguson, and of course read Ray Dalio's book, Big Debt Crises. That is a fantastic resource as well. He compiles a bunch of the crises over the last, I think, 500 years, and creates templates for how they look very similar to each other, so that you can kind of plot out these long-term trends to see where we're going. And at this pace, you have a reigning superpower that has over-financialized everything in its economy, and basically the only advantage it has left is the fact that its currency is used as the global reserve currency. And normally at this time, you're right around a big transition point globally, power-wise, economically, financial center-wise, and you're going to see normally the downfall of that currency through inflation. And so the people who make out well are the ones who are the borrowers in that failing currency. Number two, they are owners of real assets, of real estate, of farmland, of commodities, of assets in countries that will stand to benefit greatly from the world being able to detach from a currency that has been siphoning so much value away from the global economy. And gold, silver, Bitcoin, all as well, in order to try and have savings outside of the system, just in case you get some sort of tyrannical controls put in as well. So all these things are ways to diversify risk away, because you're not going to be able to time this. Things start to happen very quickly. And if you diversify with uncorrelated assets like that, especially that are in opposition to the failing currency, then you stand to at least preserve your purchasing power and potentially much more than that. So, as always, really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.